Hey, Bear Insiders. I am Mike Pawlawski, former Cal quarterback, your ultimate insider. Today, welcome to another episode. And this week, we are talking about that huge win down in Alabama. Cal over Auburn, a big SEC win on the road. It was awesome. The environment was awesome down there. To see them do the War Eagle, where they released the eagle and it flies around the stadium. It literally came, within a couple feet of our radio booth right there in front of us. You could see the whole thing. It was a pretty cool environment, so pretty fun to be a part of. But even more fun was to get that win on the road and see all of our Cal fans that were exactly opposite us in the stadium. But the blue and gold showed up strong for this game, so pretty cool. The night before the game, I got to MC an event at the College Football Hall of Fame, which was great. Cal has, I think, 21 players in the Hall of Fame right now. And then, of course, Joe Starkey, my former partner, is in there in an exhibit in a couple places for the Chris Schenkel Award as a broadcaster, but also you can call a play live in the radio booth there. And one of them is the play, the greatest call of all time in college football. And so I got the opportunity to call that play. I didn't do it justice like Joe. I did it loud, but I did not do it justice. So anyway, that was all really, really cool to go see. It's just a great event. A ton of Cal fans, a bunch of huge Cal donors there. It was awesome and great people. A lot of people supporting the Bears, which is great. So now let's talk about the game a little bit, because this game was pivotal for the Bears, right? When you're pushing through, you have to set belief as a team. You're trying to create that mindset of a team who can face adversity, overcome adversity, who can win on the road and do all those things. And so this team with 4 new players, trying to figure out who they are, a win like this becomes the glue that binds a team together. So they get that game. If they can continue getting a couple wins, it's good going to Florida State. That's a big, big deal. And this win was a big deal. I said it all week long. I said it on the air. There are 3 things you need to take with you when you go on the road: your defense, your discipline, and your special teams. Well, 2 of those showed up really well. Defense and special teams showed up really, really well. Discipline, there were some pre-snap penalties that were a problem for the Bears. Jumping off sides, illegal procedures, things that are around the snap, not during live play, are a problem because that has to do with discipline. And so they're going to have to clean that up. But luckily, defense came up big with 5 takeaways in this game. And that is an equalizer for any game whatsoever. So we're going to start on that side of the ball. I thought Teddy Buchanan had a phenomenal game this past game in Auburn. He's a guy that is transferred from UC Davis, didn't even participate in spring, though he was there. He studied like a pro. He practiced like a pro. He trained like a pro. And the coaches couldn't be more glowing about what Teddy Buchanan has done for this team and the way that he handles himself. And so he is an exemplary player for the Bears. He's been great. We'll talk to Coach Wilcox about Teddy in just a second. But in this game, he had 11 total tackles. He had 2 sacks. He had a big forced fumble where he ripped that ball out, just showing how aware he was as a football player. And he was just all over the field. Did a fantastic job at that middle linebacker spot. I thought he was great. Kato Luave, again, didn't have many tackles, but was also in position, was gap sound, was doing the right things. And so I thought our middle linebackers played phenomenally. Then our defensive line, our whole front 7 really did enough. They moved Peyton Thorne around. They got him uncomfortable. They moved him off his spot. And when Peyton Thorne was off his spot, he wasn't incredibly accurate. And that was a huge piece of the interceptions. 4 interceptions in this game. And then once, I believe it was Ryan McCulloch actually moved Peyton Thorne, got the tip, ball's up in the air, and you get an interception on that as well. And so the defensive front plays a huge piece of moving the quarterback, of making him uncomfortable, of making him inaccurate. And a great defensive line, a great pass rush is the number one best friend of DBs. And so the DBs took advantage of it. This week, Noel Williams showed up big again. He was huge in this game. Got another 2 interceptions. Could have had 1 more for a bad pass interference call. And there were 2 bad, calls back to back. That and the targeting call on Harris were both from my perspective and in the replays, neither one of them were very good calls. The targeting call was really, really, really bad because Harris literally did everything he could do to pull off that hit, but still protect himself. And so I thought that was a really bad call. I thought the pass interference was a bad call. But still, the Bears were great on defense. Secondary was good. Talked about this in the podcast last week. There was a lot of really young, talented wide receivers for Auburn. Could you rattle them? Could you show them something they hadn't seen before? Could you give them a look that would slow them down, that would get them off timing and get Peyton Thorne off timing? And the Bears did that. They gave him some different looks. They went through the Rolodex, as Coach Wilcox likes to call it, and they just changed up timing. And when you do that, quarterbacks are less accurate, they're indecisive, and it's tougher. And so that explains, along with the pressure, the inconsistency of Peyton Thorne at that quarterback spot and the takeaways. Takeaways are huge. Bravo to the defense. Fantastic job in this game. Excellent job of doing exactly what you have to do on the road. Your defense has to be great on the road, and they were great in this game. You hope that continues forward. Offense, I think we found our quarterback, Fernando Mendoza. I think that is settled. He is the guy. And coaches love Chandler Rogers. They wished he'd had an opportunity to get more snaps, and Chandler came in and got a big first down at the end of the game. But I think that Fernando played so efficiently and so well and so composed, and he led the team so well, especially in the first half. 19 of 21, and the two balls that weren't completed were throwaways. So he was perfect in decision making, which is great. So Fernando showed up. He played within himself. He played the position like it's supposed to be played. People think as a quarterback that when you have these great games, they see the whole picture. And this is really a life lesson too. It's this whole picture, and they're thinking everything's happening all at once, and it's all these big things going on. But really, when you're being very, very good at quarterback, what's going on is you are focusing down on one play right here, this one in front of me, and you are executing that play exactly as you have been trained to do it in practice. And practice is rehearsal for the game. The games can actually be a lot easier than practice as long as you don't let it feel bigger than it is, right? It's the same rep that you took in practice, just against an opposing jersey. And I think Fernando found that headspace this week. I think he found a way to stay within himself, just to execute his assignments, to do the things he's been trained to do in practice. Fernando loves the game. Fernando loves being out there on the field. He loves his team, right? He loves being a leader. And so he poured all that into executing the moment this week, and I think he found it. And that's a great headspace for him to be in. And I think that he'll continue that moving forward. As a young quarterback, and I can speak to this personally because I came out of high school as a wing T quarterback who'd played one season in a wing T and got about, 200 passes in live action in high school, and then didn't really play again for 3 years. I think I got 21 total passes before my junior year at Cal. And so I can speak to not having a lot of reps, and you learn on the job and you get better as you play. And so it took me a while to hit my stride to get it. Fernando's, going on 8 or 9 starts now as a Cal Bear, and you're seeing growth every single time. He learns the lessons from mistakes, and he improves on stuff. And so I think that's great. I think that Coach Wilcox has said that he has kind of locked down that number 1 starting spot. There's no more questions, and that also makes it a ton easier for him to perform on the field. So Fernando was great. I thought Javian Thomas showed up when he had to. Once again, injuries at the wide receiver spots, at that offensive line. I'd love to see more consistent offensive line play. You were going against a big SEC line in Auburn, but you still got to be able to move people. And I think that, that's something that the Bears will continue to work on this week and weeks going forward. Hopefully you get some bodies back there. Hopefully you get some guys back that are very effective there. But you just need to see better offensive line play than you've seen, especially in the running game the last couple of weeks. Once again, Isaiah Hunter came up big, couple touchdowns this game, fade route to start it off. And so he has just been a guy who has shown up and has played and had made plays over and over again. And so that's awesome for the Bears because they did lose the 2 receivers early on, Merriweather and Grays. And so somebody had to step up, and Isaiah Hunter has stepped up. 11 different people touched the ball this game. We finally saw some catches out of Jack Andrews, much needed, to get him involved in the offense. And so overall, I thought the offense was efficient. And on the road in an SEC stadium, if you can be efficient, if you can move the chains, if you can outscore your opponent, that's what you have to do. And the offense got it done this week. It was fun to see. So earlier, I had a chance to talk to Coach Wilcox. Let's take a look at that right now. Joining me now, head football coach Justin Wilcox. And Coach, a huge win this week in the SEC on the road, the start of the cross-country trips. Talk to me about what that means for the Bears.
Well, it was a great win, as you mentioned. I mean, they're tough to come by, especially in an environment like that against a team as talented as that. So we certainly wanted to enjoy that and take the good and the not so good from it. And when you are able to come out victorious, it's a lot more fun to learn those lessons. So I thought the team handled the trip exceptionally well, competed very, very hard, played with resolve, withstood kind of a late game surge by them and were able to come out on top, which is great. It should build confidence. It should validate the work you put in. I thought everybody played connected and played together, offense, defense, and special teams, and there's still just so many areas where we can be better. But I'm very proud of them, and now we got to, show that improvement, and that can't be the highlight of the year. That can't be our best game. Like we have to make progress, and we had a humble group of guys who are self-aware and appreciate the victory, but also know that we're going to need to be better moving forward.
There's no doubt. I was telling Justin, Bruce Snyder used to always say there's three things you got to take on the road with you: your defense, your discipline, and your special teams. And clearly you guys were really good in two phases in terms of defense and special teams. Talk to me about the defense and what did you do that gave them such fits to create 5 takeaways?
Well, the takeaways, were the number one difference in the game, obviously. When you're plus 5, 5-0, and our offense protected the ball and didn't give it up, I mean, you got to win those games if you're plus 5. And so our players made the plays. I thought our defensive coaches did an unbelievable job putting those guys in position, preparing them. They played very confident. They played aggressive. We were not perfect, and we're able to come up with the ball. A couple of them were like the tip ball. We want to take advantage of a tip ball, and then others are more what we would call a takeaway. Where you actually take the ball from them. That the interception by Noel, the second interception by Noel, the strip, the affecting the quarterback by Ryan McCullough, and then Jair picking it, Lou blending on the 3D. I mean, so those are good plays. But we still have plenty of room for improvement on defense. But the plus 5, you got to win those games, and we did. And again, the defensive coaches deserve a ton of credit for preparing those guys.
How much of that was young receivers not like doing something different that they hadn't seen, right? You knew that they were talented. There's a great group of young receivers, but you're giving them looks that they hadn't seen before, and then keeping Peyton Thorne guessing. It looked like he was, A, you were moving him, but then B, he just seemed out of sorts. He wasn't on time in terms of rhythm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to speak for them. They got good coaches and good players. I don't know, how they felt about it. But I do know we tried to give them a number of different pictures. We tried to give them a number of different fronts and or coverages. But ultimately, the players got to make the plays. I mean, there's only so many coverages out there. There's only so many fronts. But we wanted to kind of Rolodex it a bit and not show them the same thing over and over. And again, the credit to our coaches for preparing them, and then the players making the plays. I mean, that really was what it comes down to. And they're a talented team. There's no doubt about it. They got good scheme, and we were able to come out on top.
Yeah, one of the players that made the plays, you were talking about him earlier, Noel Williams, 2 interceptions in this game. Could have had 2 in the first game versus UC Davis. He's a guy who was there all year last year, but he seems to have stepped up his game even more so far this year.
Yeah, he's playing very well. I mean, in the first 2 games, he's caught the ball 4 times. I think and then the one he had the the PI on this week, which was unfortunate this past game. And then he's returned 2 kicks, 1 kickoff for a touchdown and another one on the long field goal. So he's touched the ball 6 times. He's had it in his hands in 2 games as a corner, which is pretty darn good. We knew Noel. It's not surprising to me. I'm obviously encouraged by what Noel's doing, but I'm not overly surprised. He's a diligent guy. He's talented. He's got good size. He's got really good ball skills. So we're going to keep pushing and keep working on the little things with Noel, but he's playing with leverage. He understands where he needs to fit in the defense, and if he continues to do that, I think he'll continue to make a lot of good plays.
Yeah, and I talk about Teddy Buchanan, Noel Williams, Teddy Buchanan, both getting ACC Players of the Week honors this week. Teddy Buchanan was out of this world in this game. He had a takeaway, right? He pulled one out, forced fumble, 2 sacks, 11 total tackles. He was just all over the field.
Yeah. Again, another guy that I think a lot of people probably now know his name or recognize, but not surprising to us because we've been in fall camp with him. We've watched him practice. He's got physical tools. He's got size. He can run. But his approach to the game, his approach to football, I'm talking about his workouts, how he eats, takes care of his body, the walkthroughs, the meetings, practice, like all those things. He's a total professional. And so it's not surprising to us that he played well. I mean, obviously it's impressive, but it's also not all that surprising to the people that are around him a lot.
Yeah, and he showed up the first couple of games, Katie Luave as well. I mean, both those guys, you just see them all over the field making plays. Let's flip sides of the ball. Let's go over to the offense now. And I'm going to start with the offensive line. Rushing game, just over 100 yards rushing. Seemed at times couldn't really get it going inside. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, we got to be better there. For us to be effective and efficient on offense and score points, we really want to be able to run the ball and run it more effectively. And everybody's involved in that. O-line, obviously, tight ends, backs, where they're hitting it aggressive and fast. And sometimes it's going to be, you got to pour it into the B gap, and maybe there's an arm tackle, and we got to push through that and get 3 or 4 yards. And then when there's bigger plays to hit, that we hit them, and the Jet did that. I thought he played really well. So we got to be more productive in that room, and then blocking down the field, all that stuff. But we're going to need to be, better running the football moving forward. And you got to give them credit. They have some very good players. I mean, there's some NFL guys on that D-line, and the edge player is exceptionally talented. But that's what it takes. I mean, you want to, play with the best, and you want to be able to go produce against the best. And we felt like coming out of the game, we can be better there and need to be better.
And how much do the injuries affect you there? Obviously, guys got to work with ones all year long, and all of a sudden you're down to guys who hadn't worked in that one rotation. Can the chemistry catch up? Where does that stand?
Yeah, I think it's the guys start for a reason. I mean, the ones are the ones for a reason, and then there's guys that are working for opportunities. And unfortunately, we've had some injuries. There's a couple starters down at O-line. There's a couple down at receiver, and then it's about stepping up when you get your chance. And I thought Bastion Swinney moving over, we got to do a better job with the snaps. That's obvious. We had some off-target snaps, but he competed really hard. He had a key block on Javion's touchdown. So I'm proud of him. But just as a whole, I think, Coach Blesh would agree. We just got to continue to work and get better there. They got after us at times in there, both run and pass, and we got to show some improvement in that room. And then we got to help them elsewhere. Tight ends, like I said, running backs, QBs, receivers, everybody's got to be a part of that.
For sure. Now, a bright spot, very bright spot. Fernando Mendoza had a very efficient game this game, and I thought he was doing a lot of the things that as you mature as a quarterback, you start to do, throwing the ball away, hitting the open guy, not trying to force too much. Talk about Fernando's game and how much better he was this game, what you saw and what you liked.
Yeah, especially the first half, the efficiency was, it was 19 to 21, and one of those was a throwaway.
Two throwaways. 21 with 2 throwaways.
Yeah, there you go.
It was literally perfect in decisions.
Yeah, he made some really good throws. I'm thinking about the one early in the game. He had a back shoulder to Jay Brady on our sidelines, and, we get hit in protection pretty dang bad, and he gets his legs taken out from under him, and he puts it right behind back shoulder to Brady, and then a couple plays later, he throws a great ball to Isaiah. We also had some really good scramble drills. He had a couple scrambles to run and a couple scramble completions. Like the touchdown in Isaiah was a scramble drill, the second one. So he did a heck of a job, especially in the first half. The second half, we weren't as good, and we got to continue there again. And it takes everybody. It's quarterback, receivers, O-line. We got real fortunate on one. We ran a poor route on a hitch, ran it slow, and it almost got picked. We were lucky it wasn't a pick six. So, the margins are really thin. And I thought Fernando did a heck of a job. He was very competitive. He was tough like he always is. He stood in there and threw the ball, went through his progressions. Like you mentioned, threw a couple away, which were key. So that was and we protected the ball. We didn't give it up one time. And that in itself you could point to as the difference in the game.
Oh, no doubt about it. When you're +5, like you said, you better win that game. It's super important stat. Takeaways, turnover ratio, really big. Talk about Javian Thomas. We haven't spoken a ton about him this year. He showed up in this game. Obviously, great wheels, great speed. Jaden Ott, a little bit of an injury. I'm sure you guys held him back some, but talk about Javian Thomas.
Again, another guy that's just making the most of every opportunity he gets to be out there. Whether it's running the ball, he had a big catch on our sideline. He gives everything he's got in protection. He's not the biggest guy out there, but he's physical for his size. He'll bring everything he's got when it's protection. And I think there was a couple runs where it's not real clean, and you gotta get something and bring in speed to the line of scrimmage and puncture in the A or the B gap to get 3 yards. He did that a couple of times. So I'm really proud of him. He's competitive. He shows toughness, and he had some big plays in that game that helped us.
And 11 guys catching balls, 11 different receivers catching balls this week. So you're spreading it around. Was that part of the game plan going in, or was that just the way it worked out because of?
I think it's kind of part of who we are right now. That needs to be part of our identity. Is we're going to spread the ball around, and is there one guy that's going to get 10 catches? Not right now. Maybe as the season progresses, maybe that player will evolve. But the guys were into it. They rotated. We kept fresh legs out there. We were running. Guys competing for the ball, which was great to see. That's what you got to have. I would like to see us maybe try and find one more down the field throw or draw a 15-yard PI. I thought we had a couple opportunities to maybe give ourselves to force the official to make a call, on a PI, so we could do that better. But again, to spread it around like that, tight ends, running backs, receivers was pretty dang good, and we caught it clean for the most part. There was a couple drops and one was very costly, but we just got to be cleaner there, and it was good to see.
Yeah, that along with penalties was what I was talking about in terms of discipline, right? That's the one thing. Clean up some penalties and make those plays that you got to make.
Pre-snap. The pre-snap penalties we can't have. Just way too many pre-snap penalties. And of course, we practiced with crowd noise all week, and you work silent counts, but we had 5 pre-snap penalties on offense and I think 1 on defense. We've got to do a much better job pre-snap. We got to be 100% pre-snap. That's our goal each and every week. 100% pre-snap post-whistle. And if we're going to commit a penalty, it's going to be out of aggressiveness during the play. But we got to do a much better job there as a program, coaches and players, everybody.
Yeah, while you have control, right? Pre-snap, post-snap, that's all in your control. Nothing else is going on out there. So an excellent win. Now, how do you use that moving forward with this team? What are you talking to them about? What are you telling them emotionally? How do you use that?
Yeah, it's just, again, builds confidence that you go in, you do your job, you play with an edge, you play as a team, that we can play good football. But to be honest, we come out of it, we didn't look at that like, oh man, what an unbelievable game we played. We did what we had to do to win. And we thought if we played good football, we'd have a chance to win that game. And we took, again, the 5 takeaways. We didn't turn it over once, and the field position, that was the game. and having the humility to, it's like when you come back, of course, everybody's texting and calling and wow, it's a great victory. That all feels good, but the reality is we got to look at the tape, void of emotion, and say, okay, what really happened? Okay, how can we improve upon this and be surgical in what we're doing moving forward? And you can't fall into that trap. Somebody patting you on the back, too many pats on the back or too much negativity can be equally poisonous. And so we're very cognizant of that and appreciative, that everybody's excited and we're excited too, but there's just a lot of work to be done yet.
Yeah, no doubt. Let it feel good within reality of what actually happened on the field.
Yep.
I like it. What do we know about San Diego State?
Sean Lewis is a really good football coach. Known about him a long time. He's was at Kent State for a while. Wisconsin guy, really good coach. They're going to be prepared. They're going to play good football. A lot of tempo. Really good running back. Leading the he's led the country coming back as an all-time rusher. I think he's got almost 4,000 yards.
Yep.
Running back, receiver, transfers, a good player. Colorado State, tight end's good. Defensively, it's some of the Washington scheme, the Washington quarters, and they got some kind of 5 and 6 up looks that they give you. And they play really well on special teams. That's the other thing that shows up. So got a lot of respect for them, and we'll need to play really good football.
What do you take out of that Oregon State game? Oregon State 450 yards of total offense versus 178, I believe.
I mean, on the stat sheet it looks one way, and then you can go watch the tape. As you know, Mike, like the difference between, oh man, they could have had 2 more touchdowns like that, or maybe a guy slipped on defense or had one misfit that led to a big play for Oregon State. And Oregon State's got a good team too. Like, it's just sometimes those stats can show a lot, and sometimes they can be a little misleading. And so San Diego State's got our full attention. There's no doubt about that. We know what they're capable of. They got good players. They're going to be extremely well coached. So we'll need to play really good football. We're going to have to take a step forward from what we did a week ago, in every phase of the game, and special teams included. Like, we had a great week on punt. Could have been better. Could have had 2 more pins. We missed 2 field goals, so we got to be better there. We feel like we can do better in the return game. Defensively, pre-snap, we got to be 100%. Same thing on offense. We got to be more efficient on offense, putting the ball in the end zone. So there's a lot of things that we can be much better at.
Well, it's nice to get a win like that and still be able to grow. So, outstanding job. Congratulations on that win in Auburn. Looking forward to this week, Coach, and thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Mike. Go Bears.
So, you heard it. Coach Wilcox likes the defense. He likes what they did last week, but there's always room for improvement. Offense, defense, special teams, especially when it comes to discipline, the pre-snap penalties are a big, big deal, and coaches love to see those mistakes be eliminated. The 5 turnovers really overcame the mistakes in terms of penalties, but if you can eliminate those penalties and still execute at a high level, you get really, really hard to beat in a hurry. So congratulations, the Bears got a huge win in Auburn, one that they needed. Good payback in the win, and so awesome for them. This week coming up, San Diego State. They have a returning running back who is literally the nation's leading rusher coming back into the season, well over 3,000 yards as a rusher, over 1,000 yards a year. And their game against Oregon State, got a chance to watch that on TV. Offense was not great. 160 total yards of offense. Danny O'Neal, their quarterback, is athletic. He can definitely spin it, but he was inconsistent at that position. I thought Oregon State did a great job of running the ball, especially on offense, and I thought that their defense was pretty good. So I think the Bears, this is a winnable game for the Bears this week. They can take this game at home against San Diego State. Big announcement, by the way. I don't know if you saw that, but the Pac-6 now, Pac-2, Pac-6 is starting to reconstitute, bringing in some teams from the West Coast. It was Boise State, it was Colorado State, it was Fresno State, San Diego State. So that gives you your 6 teams right there, and they're starting to try to build back the Pac-12, and that's going to start in 2026. So that's huge news as well. As conference realignment boils and bubbles and changes, and There's chaos across the country. Teams are looking to get out to realign and do things. Super interesting. But this week, the Bears get, right now, a member of the Mountain West, a future member of the Pac-12/6/whatever, San Diego State. It's going to be a matchup at Memorial Stadium, Saturday, 7:30. You can hear my call on the radio with Justin Legre. It's great. Don't forget, my book is coming out soon. The pre-order will be available soon. I would love it. I would love it, and I would appreciate it if all my Bears fans out there would support me with this book, help me broadcast this out. Get yourself a copy. There's a bunch of great life lessons in this book. There's a bunch of great stories, a bunch of Cal stories. You can learn a lot more about our team from 1991, finished number 7 in the country, highest finishing team at Cal since back in the Pappy's Boys era. So, but there's a ton of stories in there. If you text GREAT, GREAT, to 55444, just go to your text and you're going to send it to 55444. That's the number. And you text GREAT, GREAT, nothing else, and hit send. You can get on the pre-order mailing list. I will be sending you content. I'll be sending you emails, learn a little more insights from me about the book, about the lessons from the book, and I'll actually send you a pregame checklist for mental toughness. So check it out. GREAT to 55444. I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys watching and supporting us here at Bear Insider and an Ultimate Insider. And I thank you all, by the way, for the comments. I talk to you guys all the time about the comments, watching the podcast, talk to people who watch it religiously. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate my Golden Bears. Till next week, I'm Mike Pawlawski for Bear Insider. It's Ultimate Insider. Go Bears.